So in this video today, we're talking about sugar babies and sugar daddies. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, I have an earlier video that breaks down exactly what I'm talking about, gives you complete definitions for both, and spells out exactly how this arrangement works. So check out that video. I'll put a link for it down below as well as at the end of this video. But in this video specifically, we're talking about how to break up with a sugar baby if you're the sugar daddy. But don't worry, if you're a sugar baby, a lot of what I'm going to cover in this video also applies to your situation. So the first question you want to ask yourself is this a business arrangement? After all, with sugar babies and sugar daddies, it can be very businesslike. It can be very transactional. What do I mean by that? Well, when I first signed up for Seeking.com, and I'm no longer on that site, no longer trying to pursue that kind of a relationship, but when I first did, I was talking with lots of women who needed a specific fee to even go out with me on a date. There was one woman who said, yes, I'll go out with you, and it's going to be $500, and that includes sex. And for me, that just didn't work. I didn't want something that felt like a business transaction where we were going to, almost like where we were going to sign a written agreement. I wanted something that would develop more organically and feel more natural, feel more like dating, heading towards a relationship, even if it never did actually reach the relationship phase. But that's what I wanted. It's important to me to feel that spark of connection with somebody, and I didn't want it to just feel like a business deal. But in your case, you need to identify, is this a pure transaction? Is it a business arrangement or not? In my case, I did date one woman from Seeking.com, and it didn't feel like a business arrangement, at least at first. I'm going to get into more of that story in a little bit. But before I keep going, I just want to quickly introduce myself. It's Jeff from DivorcedParentsClub.com, and I'm on a mission to help other divorced people, whether those are parents or not, navigate these new waters that we're finding ourselves in after getting divorced, or maybe even you're still in the process of getting divorced. My ex and I split up over a year ago at this point. We've been legally divorced now for a couple of months, and I'm, figuring out dating. I'm figuring out how to keep a cordial relationship with my ex, and figuring out how to deal with our kids because we have 3 kids together. I'm figuring all of this out as I go, and what I'm learning, I'm putting into these videos. I hope you enjoy these videos, but for now, let's keep going. So if you are breaking up with a sugar baby, again, you're the sugar daddy in this particular situation. If you're breaking up with them, the first question you want to ask yourself is, do you break up in person? Do you call them? Do you text them? Do you email them? I actually heard another YouTuber who does a lot of videos talking about sugar babies, and he was actually suggesting that you email them. To me, that feels a little 1990-ish, but maybe, who knows? Anyway, in my case, I did opt to text the woman. I would have rather have done it in person, but at the point in time where I felt like I needed to end our arrangement, where I was and where she was about an hour and a half away. It would have been a 3-hour drive round trip for me to go there just to tell her. It just didn't feel I don't want to say it didn't feel like it was worth my time, but in a way it wasn't worth a 3-hour round trip drive just to give her this information that I could have delivered much more succinctly and did deliver much more succinctly via text. I could have called her, but I knew that she had just gotten a new job and she was also getting custody of her kid back, and I knew that the window of opportunity to have that conversation was very small. In the mornings, she'd either be getting her kid ready for school or she'd be getting ready for work. During the day, she'd be at work. After work, she'd be dealing with her kid again until the kid went to bed. It just didn't really feel like there was a great opportunity to call, so I did opt to text. Obviously, if you were in a real relationship, you wouldn't be communicating that way via text. In our case, I think we'd probably gone out 4, maybe 5 times over about a 5-week period of time. So we weren't in a relationship. We were still very much in the dating phase. We were still both seeing other people, and it just felt like the best way to handle the situation was to text. But you're going to want to answer that question for yourself based on your circumstances. Obviously, if you've been seeing this sugar baby for much longer than what I was seeing mine for, again, like maybe 4 or 5 weeks, you know, you may want to have that conversation in person or at least over the phone. Another good question is, should you continue to give them money? In all honesty, as I said at the beginning, I didn't want a business-like transactional relationship. I wanted something that felt organic. And the reality of it is every relationship I've ever been in, whether that was with my ex-wife or girlfriends I'd had in the past, I've always spent money on the women that I was engaged with romantically. That's just kind of how it's been. And I'm a giver by nature. I'm generous by nature. And so I just kind of wanted something that felt like that, even if that wasn't really the reality of the situation. I just kind of wanted something that felt good like that. And, you know, again, coming out of a 16-year marriage that, you know, had just ended and stuff, I wanted sex, if I'm being honest, but I also wanted affection and connection. And, you know, I was exploring seeking.com as the website that we met on. I was exploring whether or not I could get that from that kind of an arrangement. I tried it once. I'm not on that website now, and I don't plan to go back to that website now. I'm just looking for something that's really more genuine and more organic. But should you continue to give them money after you've broken up with them? And in my mind, the answer is a clear no. And as I said, you know, over the course of the time that we were dating, it did feel very organic, but the last week and a half or so that we were together, she began to ask for more and more and more money from me. And again, I'm generous by nature. I'm a giver by nature, and I was helping her out because she did have a lot of issues, legal and otherwise, that were expensive. And most of that I didn't know before I set up the initial first date with her. So it was information I got kind of after the fact. But I did care for her, and I did want her to succeed. And from where she was at when we first met to where she was at when I broke up with her, I do feel like I really helped her get back on her feet again. Judging from her reaction of the breakup, she doesn't necessarily agree with that, but she may also just be missing out on the money that I was spending on her. But the reality of it is her life is in much better shape now than it was when we met. So the next question you want to ask, of course, if you're breaking up with a sugar baby is there a real romantic connection, or is it pure business? In my case, I'd say it felt real, but I don't really know. It was real on my end. I did genuinely really like this person. I was not on the verge of falling in love, but we had only been going out for, like I said, 4 or 5 weeks, so that's way premature. But I don't really know if the connection was true and genuine on her end. I know there were a lot of instances where, you know, we'd hang out for a little bit and she'd be like, okay, I'm really tired, I need to get my sleep, and, you know, and so I'd leave. We'd be at her apartment, and I'd leave and go back home, and then I'd notice like 4 or 5 hours later she's like, you know, really firing it up on Snapchat. So yeah, I could never really tell if she just lying to me to kind of get me out the door. She, you know, just like, you know, we were having sex, so, you know, maybe she just like, you know, felt obligated to do that for some of the things that I was doing for her, but, you know, didn't really want anything real, so she was quick to get me out the door and then kind of get back to her life, or maybe seeing other people. I don't really know. So I'm not entirely sure if there was a romantic connection on her end, but I did feel a genuine romantic connection on my end. So real quick before we keep going, if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, please give me a like and then smash that subscribe button and the bell notification button too. That way you get notified of all the future videos I put out. And of course, if you have a topic or a question you'd like to see covered in a future video, please leave me that down below. So one thing that I think could have helped my situation with this woman that I'm talking about is if we'd had some level of conversation about what our quote-unquote relationship really was. Normally, if you're dating somebody, especially casually dating, and you're continuing to date other people and you're only 4 or 5 weeks in, normally you wouldn't have conversations like that. You just kind of let it flow and see where things naturally went over time. But I do think, given the nature of seeking.com and the other kind of sugar baby and sugar daddy websites that are out there, it might actually help to kind of clarify exactly where you're at and where they're at, and make sure you're on the same page. Are we dating other people? Are you having, seeking arrangements with other people outside of me. And what does that look like? And, are you being safe when you have sex with those people? And questions like that. I think those would be valid questions to ask and a valid discussion to have. And that way you have a better understanding if you do decide to break up with your sugar baby or your sugar daddy. You've got a better understanding of where they're coming from and what their level of expectation might be. Which brings me to my next point is, are sugar babies sometimes exclusive with their sugar daddy, or do they always have a lot of irons in the fire? And in my case, like I said, I've only had one arrangement like that, and I don't plan to have any more because it wasn't quite what I was looking for. But I do know that in a previous relationship that she had with a sugar daddy, she was exclusive to that guy, and they were together for quite some time. The only reason their relationship ended is that he died suddenly, and he had been sick for a long time but hadn't told her that. And so she kind of found out very, out of the blue, and I'm sure that was really devastating because, like I said, I believe they had been together for quite some time. But it did sound like it was still kind of a business arrangement. But I do believe that she truly cared for the guy. But that's the question that you're going to want to get to the bottom of. Is your sugar baby going to be exclusively yours? And are you exclusively theirs, or are you both free to do whatever? I do know in her original listing on Seeking.com, she said no strings attached, that kind of thing. And so I was kind of operating from that mindset. But judging from her reaction to my breaking up with her, it did kind of feel like maybe that wasn't where her head was at then. But as I said, it could also be the reality of hey, my cash cow's going away. What am I going to do? So if you are breaking up with your sugar baby or your sugar daddy, or you're about to, or you're considering it, one question that I know you want to know the answer to is, how long do these sugar baby, sugar daddy relationships typically last? I know I just mentioned that the woman that I had been seeing in a previous arrangement that she'd been with that guy for years. But on average, just know that the typical sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship only lasts 2 or 3 months. And then maybe they move on to somebody else. Maybe the woman decides that she wants a quote unquote real relationship. I know the woman that I was seeing had actually been married and has a kid with the guy that she was married to. So clearly she doesn't only seek out these kind of business relationships. She does have more genuine relationships as well. And who knows, maybe mine could have grown into that. I just wasn't quite feeling it, and I didn't want to keep spending the amount of money that she was asking me to spend on her. But typically these relationships do only last a couple of months, very short term. So just be aware of that. And then if you decide to break up with yours, just know that, that's probably not that uncommon. And if they've been doing this for a while, they're probably used to that. Anyway, I hope this video helps you. Again, if you like it, hit that like button, smash the subscribe and the bell notification. But for now, I'll see you in the next video.